What's up, friends? Today we are here again with the VMAX VX2, and today I'm going to be giving you my ESKATER's opinion on if I think you should go out and pick up a scooter to try, or if you're a brand new person to e-vehicles. Is this a good vehicle to get started on? Well, I'm going to try to answer those questions to the best of my ability in this video, so make sure you stay tuned all the way till the end to get all of my thoughts. Alright, well, first off, some of you might notice that the setup is slightly different, and in fact I'm actually in a completely new location. So I've just finished my move and finished setting up my stuff, and we're finally back into functioning state. And I'm going to start getting the content rolling again for you guys with some of those videos that I talked about in my community post. If you haven't seen that, go check it out and vote for which one you're most excited for. This video I am recording first. I'm not sure if it'll come out first, but we'll see. I've got to send the scooter back to VMAX soon, since this was just a demo unit, which again, thank you so much to VMAX for providing this unit for me to do a review on. It was definitely a cool experience to get to try out an e-scooter for the very first time. So basically how I'm going to structure this video is, the first part I'm going to talk about what I liked about this scooter and scooters in general. Second, I'll talk about what I didn't like, and then we'll talk a little bit about VMAX's quality, and then we'll go ahead and do the PSPEC score, which I did manage to do for this device, and then we'll finish off with the RBEM score, kind of spun in a way for scooters, and not really quite the same as e-skates, because there's a lot of different things that just don't exist on e-skates. So let's go ahead and get started with the things that I liked about riding an e-scooter. Now, it was important to go into this with an open mind, because a lot of e-skaters just hate on scooter riders, and I will admit I share some of those dislikes for scooter riders as well. This is kind of stemming off of the basis of rental scooters being so popular, and a lot of the rental scooter riders have no idea what they're doing, cutting across sidewalks, riding on sidewalks, trying to get places with multiple people on a scooter, and it's a bad look, really. So they kind of earn themselves a bad rep, and to be honest, let's all be real, you look kind of funny riding on a scooter. Not that a skateboard is that much better, but yeah, I think it's a step down. But anyway, this is supposed to be about things that I like. So I try to keep an open mind with this, and I will start this off by saying the number one thing about starting riding an e-scooter is it's very, very easy to learn. And it's kind of like the opposite of e-skate. It's pretty hard to learn, but maybe the mastery of general riding is a little bit easier per se. On here, it's very easy to learn. You can learn this in literally 5 minutes and be able to go up to about 20 miles an hour, no problem. This is a little bit skewed because I have good balance and I've been riding e-skate for so long, so I kind of know how these e-vehicles respond, but in general, it's very easy to learn how to ride a scooter, and I think that's one of the reasons why they are so popular as a rental option. Bikes, most people learn how to ride a bike when they're young, so that comes naturally as well. Again, very popular rental option. Now, like I said, very easy to learn. I figured out how to ride this pretty well within the first half hour completely. Within the first like 30 feet, I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. But there are a couple things that I noticed while trying to learn this. It is slightly wobbly. If it's your first time riding a scooter, you notice side to side wobble a lot, but you learn how to control that really easily and pretty quickly too. And it just kind of ends up being something you can play with and carve. But in general, it's very easy to learn. I really like that about that. I think you could put pretty much anyone on this scooter, this one specifically, and they would be perfectly fine to learn it within half an hour, and they could go on a ride with you, which you can definitely not say the same about an e-skate, especially at the speeds that this is able to get up to. So that's point number one. Second point I want to make is that this thing has incredible range, especially for the price. You are not going to get any e-skate that I can think of at this price range with this kind of range and distance. And it's actually really impressive. I haven't done a full range test on this because it has so much range, and I have to send it back. So while I've had this scooter in kind of a difficult time through the holidays and then moving, so my time to ride has been a less and it's been raining a lot, so it's kind of a compound effects of me not being able to get that full range test, and I wanted to, but I just don't think it's gonna happen. So in any case, I rode this scooter on the first charge all the way until now when I recharged it to like do the full like PSPEC score and stuff. So that took me all the way up to 21 miles, which I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it feels like a lot when you're riding at 16 to 19 miles an hour at the beginning anyway. So yeah, the range on this thing is great. I actually think that it's possible to get the 37 miles that they claim, because when I was at 21 miles, I still had 4 bars of battery left out of, is it 6 or 7? I can't remember. I'll put a piece of B-roll on screen showing the number, but yeah, it definitely has good range. And when I'm gonna go do my range test route today, which is just 7 miles, calculate the distance off that, and then try to interpolate how much distance or range I think it would have. And I think that number is going to be very close to what they actually claim, which is impressive because most e-skate companies do not claim, or they don't match their claims. And for this to be able to go 30 plus miles on what I think is a 13S3P battery or 13S4P, I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look at the data sheet, but it's very impressive to be able to go that far on that kind of battery, and you're just not going to get that at $1,200 in any e-skate. Maybe on a urethane e-skate you might be able to get that at that price point, but it's going to be pretty tough. There are 2 lower levels of range in this scooter spec lineup for increasingly less money. This is the highest tier one, I think the GT. So there you go, range, huge benefit on this scooter in particular. The next benefit I want to talk about for this scooter is how water resistant it is. This thing is rated to IPX6, which is, by the definition of IPX6, protected against high pressure streams from any angle. And that is really impressive, because basically what that boils down to is you can probably ride this while it's raining and be perfectly fine. I would never attempt to do that on any e-skate that I've ever ridden. It's just too high risk of shorting out a motor or water getting into the ESC enclosure or anything like that. But this thing, it's sealed up real well. And with the quality, or the perceived quality that I have of VMAX and this build, I fully believe that it is actually enclosed like that. And one of the benefits of having an enclosed scooter body like this is that it's a lot easier to waterproof or water resist something like this, as opposed to an e-skate enclosure where a lot of times it's split or it has a lid or something that needs to solidly close in. On here we've got a rubber grip tape on top of this body below, and then we have a hub motor in the back, and then just disc brakes in the front, and then all the rest of the electronics run through the handlebar stem and down into the body. So water resistance is great. And then again, you have other things that help you with riding in rain or wet conditions. You got your big fender on the back and on the front, and this does a really good job of keeping water off of your feet. Again, if you're riding e-skate in the rain or wet conditions, it gets absolutely everywhere. If you've done it, you know what I'm talking about. So that's a really nice benefit here, is that most of the water is probably going to stay off of you so long as it's not actively raining and streaming down the front of you as you ride your e-scooter. So that's a really great thing to point out. And IPX6, I feel like, is not really something that you see on boards. Very impressive, good stuff, VMAX. This other positive thing is kind of a random one that I think is more exclusive to the VMAX and the design of this scooter than some other ones, but I actually really enjoyed having the signals and the bell. And I think one of the things that e-skaters struggle with a lot is visibility to cars and trying to point out the direction that they're going. On this scooter, you've got a bell, which is incredibly loud, and that can help you alert pedestrians in front of you. Much easier than yelling at them, more polite, I feel like. And I think you might actually even be able to hear that inside of a car that's nearby if you were riding on a sidewalk and coming up to one, something like that. But the other part is the turn signals, which they're not going to turn on right now because the scooter is off. But basically, actually I can turn it on. and show you. So you'll see the left turn signal turn on here. You got a signal on the handlebar, and then a nice bright amber signal on the bottom of the deck. And then you've got it on the other side as well. So those are very useful, and I found that it feels like I'm more seen when I'm going to turn off of a street by putting on my signal. And it's just like a little thing, but it's a nice little touch that I think is a benefit to riding a scooter in the first place. So visibility and having those signals on there is great. You do also have lights. I found that this headlight is pretty bad. It's not really doing the job of the headlights that I have on my skateboards, but you'll at least be seen with it, and you'll be able to see a little bit of the road in front of you. Again, not the brightest light I've ever seen, but it's better than nothing. So, and the final thing for lights is that we have a brake light here. You can probably see, yeah, you can see that turn on there when you pull the brake. This will work for either the drum brake or the regen brake on the right-hand side. And just good to notify people behind you that you're braking. Kind of something that makes it more road legal in places that are more strictly enforcing scooter and bike laws, like where this originally came from in Switzerland or Germany, where they sell them. You know, EU regions are pretty strict when it comes to the regulations on some of these e-vehicles. So good stuff. All right, now that I've been rambling about positives on this thing for so long, let's talk about the things that I don't like and what makes an e-scooter something that I'm not really going to look at purchasing in the future, especially coming from an e-skate. Number one is vibrations and impact, and this is a really weird one to point out on something that has such gigantic tires. These tires are very comfortable. They absorb all of the road vibrations really well, giving you a really nice, comfy ride. However, this standing platform is completely stiff. There is zero give to it. Even on some of the carbon fiber boards that I've ridden, there is a little bit of give, or the grip tape is soft. On here we have a stiff rubber grip tape on here, I guess you could call it. And then you have a solid metal frame that goes all the way through. And furthermore, there is no suspension on this scooter in particular. No suspension in the front and no suspension in the back. Of course, at this price point, you're probably not going to find that on most e-scooters. And it's not a fault to the quality of this scooter because it is very high quality, but not having suspension absolutely destroys the ride feel for me. And honestly, it's another reason why I didn't want to do a full range test, because I don't think that I could personally ride the scooter long enough to do a range test on the roads that are in my area. And the reason for that is because every single time you hit a bump and impact, it goes straight up through the handlebars and through your legs and body into your head, at least in my experience. And the jerking back and forth motion of the handlebars and the bumps, it gives me a headache, and I feel like my head gets shaken up. I don't know if anyone else can kind of agree with me on that, but that's my experience riding a scooter that has no suspension and a stiff standing platform. Maybe there's some technique that I'm not doing right. I tried to do like bending my knees to try and absorb it. I tried to like ride with looser arms, and it just wasn't doing it for me. All the impact just goes straight up, and it's a very different experience than on e-skate, where you kind of bounce over bumps, or the deck absorbs a lot of the impact, or the wheels absorb impact. Again, tire is very comfortable. They have a good bit of grip, but I just can't get past the impact part, and it's just not something that I really enjoy riding. So unfortunate there, but it's part of learning how to ride a scooter, and I think that's probably not going to change unless you get a scooter that has suspension, which it would be quite interesting to try a scooter with suspension to see if my opinion changes on the impacts that come through to your head. All right, next up, portability. Now, this thing looks like it might be fairly portable, but the reality is this is like 40 pounds. I'll weigh it and put B-roll on the screen right now. And you can grip it pretty easily by the handlebars here. It locks down pretty securely into the rear mud flap / guard, and you can kind of carry it. It's pretty easy to balance. It is heavy for smaller people. They might not be able to do this in one arm. I can do it in one arm pretty easily. But really, it's kind of hard to fit in your car. And I have a smaller car, a 3 Series BMW, so my trunk space is pretty decent, but this is not easy to fit in there. And especially if you got anything else in the car, it's going to be pretty tough to fit this. It's also a lot less friendly to stick in your workplace. I feel like it takes up a lot more space. A skateboard, you can kind of just lean up against a wall, put it on your desk. This takes up a lot of space in height and width, whereas a skateboard usually only takes up a lot of space in length, and the height isn't too bad. This is just kind of big. Really depends on where you work and what your uses are for it, but in my opinion, this is a lot less portable than the skateboards that I ride from day to day. Not a fair comparison to say that it's more or less portable than my mountain boards that are also like 35 pounds and equally as long and tall, but for a normal street skate, what most people ride, is probably not going to be as portable as those are. And of course, you can't fly on a plane with anything of this size either. So my final talking point here on the negatives of this are the speed and riding experience in general. So I had a really weird experience with this scooter in terms of speed. I was not fully briefed on it when I got the scooter, started riding it. I thought it was supposed to go 19 miles an hour. My entire first ride video was all at 16 miles an hour. You can go check that out in the iCard, but I didn't have the full top speed unlocked, and that's because I didn't know how to do it. Now, to unlock the full top speed, you have to press the power button 5 times and then switch it to the other mode. I think it's like 2 or something. And then you press it again and it'll go into that top speed mode and you'll be able to get to the 19 miles an hour. Now, that was before the firmware update. So in December, I got an email from the company saying, we've updated our firmware and we're now unlocking a higher top speed of 24 miles an hour. Now, this is something that may be exclusive to US customers. And for me, all I had to do was put this back in its original box, ship it to LA, and then ship it back. And they did that for free. They would do that for free for any customer, in fact, that wants to upgrade to the higher speed firmware. So if you are a VX2 owner and you want the 24 mile an hour firmware, make sure to contact the company and they'll get you sorted out and get you upgraded to that newest firmware. Unfortunately, there is a firmware upgrade option in the app, but they're not letting you use it. So I wonder if that has something to do with regulations. Excuse me. If that has something to do with regulations where the firmware in America is different than the firmware in Germany or somewhere else with more strict rules on the top speed of these scooters. Anyway, all that is to say that the top speed on this, when compared to my average speed on eSkate when I commute to work or when I ride kind of fast, it's just low. 24 miles an hour is not enough for me personally, and it's way more than enough for most people. And when you compare this to a rental scooter like a Bird, oftentimes those are only topping out at 15 miles an hour. So the fact that this can go 10 miles an hour faster is really, really great. As scooters go, I don't think this is really that high tier in terms of top speed. There is no dampener for the steering on here, so you're not going to want to go 60 on this or anything like that. But when we go back to my first video that I made on this, the first ride, a lot of my complaints about the top speed are completely resolved with the 24 miles an hour. It feels much, much better. It feels like how fast it was supposed to go originally. And the nice thing is that it can keep going that speed even up hills, and that's really impressive. So really great work to VMAX for getting that top speed up there and making it a lot better than the 16 miles an hour. Believe me, it doesn't sound like that much, but it makes a huge difference in actually riding the scooter. It makes it a lot more fun, and it gets you places a lot faster. Think about it, it takes, for example, a 10-mile ride. You're going 10 miles an hour, it takes you an hour. You're going 20 miles an hour, it takes you half an hour. You're going 24 miles an hour, it'll take you less than half an hour. Makes a big difference, and again, that doesn't scale necessarily as badly to the 15 or 16 miles an hour, but it makes a big difference. It could cut 15 minutes off your commute, depending on how far you're going. So I guess in conclusion, my point is the scooter isn't quite fast enough for my day-to-day uses, and I definitely have a higher top speed and entire average speed on my e-skates when I commute on the same kinds of routes. So it'll kind of be up to you, the audience member, if you're interested in a scooter, to decide if 24 miles an hour is enough for you. And it is 1 mile an hour under the residential road speed limit. So you can kind of chill on those roads with cars, but a lot of times people are going faster than 25, maybe around 30. So it can be a little uncomfortable holding up cars behind you on those residential streets. But it works out most of the time. And like I said, much better than the 16, but just not fast enough for me. Final comment I have on the riding experience, besides the vibrations and stuff, is that your hands are not free. Basically, riding a scooter with one hand is, in my opinion, very dangerous, and it's very difficult to do, especially if you have it on all the way out on the handlebar. You end up with a lot of bump steer, and it's just not safe. You can't go on your phone, you can't record anything while you're riding, you can't hold anything in your other hand, you can't film. It's just a really tough situation when you compare to an e-skate where you've got a remote in one hand and you have one hand free pretty much at all times. Even if you're wearing gloves or whatnot, you can carry something. You could film, you could drink a drink, you could eat if you wanted. I don't know, these are super random. You could film with your phone, anything like that. It just takes that away from you, makes it a lot less convenient to ride. Now, of course, you can stick things in your backpack if you have a nice one, but it's just not the same. And it's not really something that I'm willing to give up for every single ride that I'm on. I think a lot of rides, no problem at all. But for me, not having a hand free makes a big difference. And I think one-wheelers would agree that not having both hands free, like on an e-skate, is kind of annoying. So yeah, take that into consideration. That's my one final negative point against that. But now it's time to talk about VMAX a little bit and the amazing quality of this scooter. All right, so VMAX is a very interesting company. They are a Swiss-based brand that has their own OEM in China that makes their scooters. One of the things that is amazing about having your own OEM is that they're only making scooters for you. You own the plant, you own the processes, you own the quality control. You're able to control that all the way down to the last T, get your certifications, get your consistency really high, and in my opinion, that's the best way to operate a brand. Doing white label stuff where you have another company make stuff for you, you brand it. Maybe sometimes if you're a very high tier white label company, you might go to China, you might inspect the processes, ensure the quality control is high, but it's never really going to come to the same level of quality as you get with a complete OEM solution. Now, VMAX has done an excellent job on quality, and this scooter is built better than a lot of the e-skates I've ridden, and I'm not like saying that lightly. Everything on this scooter exudes quality. All of the rubber is high quality. The grip tape is high quality. The plastics are very strong, really nice injection molded parts without too much blowout on the edges. The metal is all high quality. It's consistently machined or extruded. The welds on the stem here are incredible. Really nicely done. Of course, they're covered in anodization, so it's hard to tell, but I can tell just by looking through the anodization that they're done really well. The reflectors are fastened well. The brakes are nicely painted and fastened well. There's a little metal piece or metal spring in here, I'll show you on B-roll, that protects the cables that go through the handlebars. Really nice attention to detail there. You've got a double locking mechanism to hold the handlebars in place. Really well done there. The grips are nice soft rubber. The lights that are integrated in feel like they were meant to be there. They're not an afterthought. Even the rear turn signals are vibration dampened and resistant to wear and tear. So everything on this scooter is built to the highest level of quality that I've probably ever seen. There are a lot of really bad quality e-scooters out there. I've seen some pretty sketchy stuff. Same goes for EUCs, same goes for e-skates. So basically the message I'm trying to send here is VMAX really cares. And I think if you were to find an error in their manufacturing, they would definitely resolve it through their customer service and get you sorted out, because this thing, it's awesome. It's not everyone's going to say the same opinion that scooters can look good, but this thing looks really good for its price point and looks really good for what it is. So really good job, VMAX, on your quality. I really was not able to find a single thing on this scooter that I would consider a manufacturing flaw. Yeah, just really great job, and I'm happy to help promote the scooter by demoing it and showing you guys what it's all about. And hopefully some of my B-roll will capture the slightly dirty but high quality finishes and manufacturing techniques used on this scooter. While riding this scooter, I tried to think about who exactly this would be for. This scooter is extremely stable, feels really well built. I think even if you're a heavier rider, you're not gonna have any problem on this thing. It feels like you run into a wall and it'll be fine. Probably don't recommend that. But I think pretty much anyone can get this scooter and be happy with it if they're looking for an e-scooter. This is the GT model, again, got tons and tons of range. I honestly think that they rate their range so well that you could probably step it down one and get closer to what you actually think you're gonna ride rather than spending more and always having extra range. I personally always prefer to have extra range because I hate range anxiety, but for this case specifically, since it seems to be rated so well, I think you're gonna be safer going closer to where you need to be. And basically, the person that this scooter is for is either someone upgrading from riding rental scooters but wanting a little bit more, or someone who's upgrading from a cheaper e-scooter, wants something that's super high quality that will last a long time and be supported well through the company they buy it from. I think this is a really good upgrade scooter. I think it's a really good first scooter if you have a little bit more money to spend. Of course, this is not going to compare exactly to a $300 scooter, but VMAX also has other options down at that price level. So I encourage you to check out their website down in the description. I've got an affiliate link down there that they provided me since I'm doing a demo. So if you go check that out, you can see all the different models, and there definitely are quite a few options. I can't speak to the quality of those, but after seeing what we've got here, I'm pretty sure that you're gonna have a good experience on most of their models. So if you're a first-time scooter buyer, or if you're someone that's upgrading to another mid-tier scooter, I think this is a really great option for you. All right, now that I'm done talking about the positives and negatives of this scooter, let's go into the performance of this scooter. And overall, it's pretty good. But I've got some clips here and some data to show you, and then we'll do a really quick comparison to what an eSkate can do in comparison to what this mid-ish tier scooter can do. And I think that'll be quite interesting. So let's get right into the numbers. All right, it is time for the PSPEC score, and this is the same as the one that I do on my electric skateboards, which combines acceleration, braking, top speed, 0 to 20 time, and 100 meter sprint. This gives a really good idea of the performance characteristics of the board in a completely objective way. First up, acceleration. So my acceleration is a 0 to 20 time, so the time it takes from the device to go from 0 to 20 with no assisted start. And for the VX2 Pro scooter, we came out to an average of 8.05 seconds with a min of 7.88. And we'll do a little bit of comparison to this to skateboards in a minute. The torque, oh, sorry, that's another thing that I measure, is the torque of each device by pulling on a crane scale and calculating back out the torque. For this scooter, it came out to an average of 6.42 Newton meters with a max of 6.74 Newton meters. The top speed was very consistent for the scooter, coming out to 24 miles an hour every single time. And braking was something that it actually did really well at because of the combination of disc brake on the front and regen brake on the rear, unlike e-skates where you're only braking with your powered wheels. For this particular scooter, I came out to an average of 15.24 feet and a minimum of 14.38 feet. That is pretty good when you compare it to the rest of my devices that I've tested so far. And again, we'll look at those in just a second. For the 100 meter sprint, the VX2 Pro got a minimum of 13.16 and an average of 13.18 seconds. Very consistent across the line. It was 13.16, 13.18, 13.23, and 13.16. And these were all done in the sport mode with the maximum top speed unlocked by pressing the power button 5 times. Now, let's compare that to some of the eSkate results. if we look at our 100-meter sprints, the 13.19 or whatever it was, I forgot already, comes in a pretty decent spot, coming in at kind of a middle pack, lower middle pack of the more budget e-skates. And it's not really a jarring sprint time. It's not anything crazy, and it reaches the 24 miles an hour just as it gets to the 100 meters, which is a lot slower than I'd be going on some of my e-skates that I test. Now, for the other tests, we come out to some fairly decent results with the acceleration, or actually the best result is braking. For the braking test, it actually comes out to be the best braking device that I've ever tested, which again makes sense because you're braking with the front and rear wheel, and it's a drum brake. So pretty interesting. Again, you'll see these on screen. 15-0 braking test comes out at the very top. For the acceleration, again, mid-pack with a average of 8.05. That puts it actually kind of on the lower end with only a couple budget boards below it. And then the torque comes out at the low end as well with only a couple budget boards below it. Again, this is not a very exciting scooter to ride. It's not like a power monster, but the value is there and the range is there. And those are two things that I think a lot of people on scooters like this would consider. Again, top speed pretty low, coming in at just at the bottom of the budget boards list. And again, this comparison isn't really super useful for a lot of people, but for my e-skate viewers, it kind of gives you a perspective on where this $1,000 to $1,200 scooter sits. So hopefully you found that interesting, and I'll just leave you with a chart and on to the next section. All right, let's do the RBEM score for scooters. This is a brand new thing, and it's sort of adapted off of the score that I have for my e-skate reviews. But a couple different things, and I think it fairly well encompasses the things that you might be thinking about when you're getting a scooter. Now, I'm not as well educated on this as some people who would ride scooters all the time, but I think that these are probably things that you'll be looking for. So let me know down in the comments below if I'm on the right track with these or if I need to adjust them a little bit. But in any case, the categories are 1, build quality for 10 points, 2, controls for 10 points, 3, ride quality for 10 points, 4, the electronics for 10 points, 5, suspension for 5 points, 6, wheels and tires for 5 points, 7, extra features for 5 points, and then 8, price and value for 5 points as well. And that comes out to a total possible score of 70, pretty similar to what we see with e-skates. Now, we're gonna go ahead and go through these scores sort of quickly just to make this video so it's not 40-something minutes long. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the description and or down in the comments. I don't know why I always say that. Let me know down in the comments below, and let's get right into this score. All right, so coming out first is build quality, and I've already been gushing about the build quality of this thing for the past part of the video, but I'll just reiterate, this thing is built extremely well. Really nice welds, really nice finishes, good strong materials, extra things that they thought of, vibration dampening, good handles. Brakes are fairly decent. I think the front brake could really stand to be a bit stronger, and it doesn't feel super good. It is a drum brake, but not 100% there. So that takes off a little bit, I think. The front wheel looks like it's cast. I haven't had any issues with that, and I've gone off quite a few curbs, but maybe there's a possibility that could crack if you hit it hard enough. Same problem for one wheel rims, but overall really good quality, and I'm giving it a 10 because honestly I can't fault this thing. It's just built so well. It feels sturdy and it really does the job. 2 is controls. Now, controls are interesting because you really only have one control on this, or 2 I guess, throttle and brake. and a little bit of speed mode control. And the throttle is a thumb throttle where you press down like this on a little lever. I really do not like it that much. It really hurts if you hit a bump while you're pressing it, and then it kind of bounces your thumb against it. It gets pretty tiring, to be honest, holding it down there like that. So I wish it was a twist throttle like on some bikes, or if it was like a one finger throttle or something like that, I think it would be better. Yeah, just really not a fan of that. Maybe they'll think about changing something in the future, but that seems to be a pretty common control scheme. I just don't like it that much. The brakes are 2 standard brake levers. They feel pretty good. The regen one is nice and gradual, but not as strong. The front brake is a disc brake, which also engages the regen brake at the same time. Works, but not as super strong. So overall, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 for the controls. It did fairly well, but I think there are some things to be improved. Ride quality is up next, and I did complain about this a lot earlier. I do think the ride quality is fairly good. You've got really nice tires on here that are grippy and take up all your vibrations. I didn't really feel much vibration fatigue through my feet, but the impacts are just really not great. Obviously you have a stiff standing surface here, and it just goes straight through the handlebars into your head, for my experience anyway. So overall, we're giving it a ride quality 6 out of 10. I think that there are definitely a lot of scooters that are way more comfortable in this, but I also think that there's a lot of scooters that are way less comfortable in this. So it's kind of in the middle ground, and that's why it gets a 6 out of 10. Now, electronics on this thing are great. We've got a nice, beautiful screen up at the top that shows you your battery remaining, your trip distance, and your speed mode. You've also got lighting that's controlled through buttons that feel really nice. You've got turn signals that are controlled through a switch that feels really good. You've got an app that connects to the scooter and lets you see your speed and range and exact battery percentage, which is awesome. App works perfectly, connects really easily. You've got turn signals that are integrated perfectly. You've got a battery that's fully enclosed. It does use a barrel port to charge, which I kind of wish that was a little bit better. I really don't like barrel ports that much, and this does not feel super waterproof, but it is what it is. It works. The charger is really slow. That is worth pointing out. It's only a 2 amp charger, and it takes hours to charge. I didn't actually track. I think it's at least 2.5 to, no, it's at least 3.5 hours, at least for what I was charging, and I didn't charge it all the way. So it wasn't fully dead, I mean. So yeah, it takes a while, and that's not necessarily an electronics problem. It's more of a charger problem. So maybe one day they'll offer a fast charger for it. That would be really nice. ESC in here, very smooth, very predictable, works really well. Regen brakes work pretty well, and all the rest of the electronics just work together really, really nicely. So overall, they're getting a 9.5 out of 10 for a very excellent job done and very pleasurable riding experience when it comes to acceleration and braking. Now, suspension, well, unfortunately there is no suspension, so it gets a 0 out of 10 for suspension. Ride quality is what makes up for the tires and wheels and the wheels and tires category. So unfortunately we got a 0 in this category, but you know, it is what it is. You pick your price point and you aren't necessarily gonna get everything that you want. Wheels and tires are up next, and I think they do pretty well here. The brand of tires on here are Chow Yang. Never heard of that company before, but they appear to be made fairly well. A lot of times you see 2-watt tires or Hoda tires on the scooters like this, but I don't really have any problems with these. These are tubeless tires, and they seem to perform pretty well. They're definitely at a low PSI right now, pretty squishy, but I guess I should probably fill that up before I ride today. But yeah, they do the job. They're grippy enough, and I don't really have any concerns. So the only one thing that I would take off for this is the cast wheel at the front. Slight chance that it might get cracked if you go off too many curbs with it, but overall they did pretty good. These definitely don't have very much off-road performance at all. They are very much street tires. So overall I'm giving them a 3.7 out of 5, and my light just turned off. All right, so extra features on this scooter. Now, this scooter has an app that is very good, well integrated with the scooter. It's got turn signals, which look really nice. It's got a nice screen on the front, and it's got a headlight, which, while not super bright, does the job technically. But it doesn't have any other bells and whistles, no dampeners, no suspension. It has a kickstand here, of course. But nothing super flashy, it kind of just gets the job done. So overall, they did a fairly good job, but they're only gonna get a 3.9 out of 5 for this. I think there's a lot of other things that could be added to this, but pretty well done. Finally, we have price and value. Now, I think this is very good for this scooter. Right now, it's coming in at $999 for the GT version, and honestly, I think that's really good value. You're not going to get any eSkate at $1,000, in my opinion, that truly gets you the range that this thing gets. And if you need something that will get you to work every day, this thing is going to do it. You may look a little funny while you're doing it, but you'll be able to ride through puddles and pretty much all that you can ask for in nice weather. I guess you probably wouldn't want to ride this in the snow, but in any case, the price and value is pretty good matchup here. I think it's a much higher value than a lot of eSkates for what you get. You kind of just have to consider what things are negatives for you and what is going to make you consider it bad value. For me, if I were looking for a scooter, I do tend to look on the higher end for prices rather than just starting at the very bottom. So this would fall in the range that I would consider good value, and I really like it. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. And I think if you need to seek a little bit better value, you can get the same exact scooter with less range for very good prices. So I'll put those two prices of the two lower tiers here on the screen with their range values, but really good job, VMAX. Now this comes out to a total RBEM score of 44.6. Now this may seem a little bit low to start out, but this is the only e-scooter that I've ever reviewed, so we kind of don't have a very good judge of if that's a good score or not. I wager that it is a pretty good score when you compare it to some of my e-skates. So I think VMAX did a really good job with this scooter, and I think a lot of people are really gonna like it. So if you are interested in getting the scooter, go ahead and use that affiliate link down in the description, and it'll give me a little bit of kickback for my time that I spent with it. Hopefully you guys found my opinion valuable. Coming from an e-skates perspective into one of the other many PEV communities. So there you go. There's your RBEM score. Go ahead and do an outro. All right, so the VMAX VX2 is a very interesting scooter, or VX2 Pro, in fact, is a very interesting scooter. It gives you really good price to value ratio at several different price points, and it's really just a pleasurable experience in terms of e-scooters, and being my first e-scooter to review. VMAX has been really nice to me as a company. They reached out to me in the first place to do a review on the scooter, and then I got way more time than I originally asked for. I moved during this whole review process, and the top speed changed during this review process, so really appreciative for VMAX working with me and letting me do this demo for you guys. And if you're interested in the scooter, make sure to check it out down there in the affiliate link below to see if there's anything you might be interested in. Now, I think VMAX is a really great company to buy from. It seems like they have really good customer service. They were very responsive to me when I needed it, and even checking in to make sure I needed anything as time went on. And I hope that their US release goes really well. I think that a lot of people will appreciate the high quality that comes with a scooter like this instead of a cheap knockoff brand from somewhere else. So overall, pretty happy with my experience here. I'm not really a scooter reviewer, but I will look into other scooter reviews in the future if you guys are interested. And I think it gives a different perspective from someone that has so much time on e-skates to kind of look at something with a little bit of a different light. Now, I don't really have too much else to say. Hopefully you guys found this review interesting and helpful and educational. And if you have any other questions, be sure to leave them in the comments down below, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. So thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, keep on riding, and peace out.